I was always funny about food. I have to say that. I was always, I was always, I wouldn't eat this, I wouldn't eat that, I wouldn't eat the other, sort of. I restricted. Um, but I liked confectionery. I did like confectionery. Um, and I have an alcohol problem as well, and they coincided, sort of. The more I drank, the more I ate. Um, and when I stopped drinking, I lost a lot of weight, and then I started to control how much I ate, and then I lost control again and piled on the weight. And eventually, uh, a couple of years ago, I gave up smoking, and that's when I really put on the weight. There was no control. I thought it'd be 6 months of overeating, and then sort of curb the smoking, and then lose the weight. But it didn't work out like that. It was years. I was telling people I'd just give up smoking, and sort of I was eating because I was smoking. Well, that was 12 years, and I was still eating because I'd given up smoking, sort of. Um, and I remember I was sitting, the two of us were sitting down after a meeting, and a girl there was drinking tea without milk. And I said, well, why are you drinking tea without milk? And then she explained about grey sheets, and sort of and all I heard was giving up carbohydrates, and I thought I can't do that, sort of I give it a little bit of a try, but my heart wasn't in it, giving up food, sort of my heart wasn't in it. So I did, I went to a couple of meetings. The pandemic had happened, I went to a couple of online meetings, didn't say anything. One was 2 o'clock in the morning, I fell asleep, sort of. And I didn't carry it any further. Anyway, after the pandemic, sort of having hospital appointments for things that, and I found I had heart trouble. So I knew I had to, and it was suggested that I did something about my weight. So I knew I had to give up, I had to do something about my weight. No, I didn't the running around Weight Watchers and Slimming World. I did all that, and they didn't work for me, because once you stop doing it, you pile on the weight. And it only lasted a couple of months, and I couldn't follow it anyway, sort of. And I found the food I was eating was making me hungry. You know, when I woke up in the morning one morning chewing my pillowcase, sort of, it made me want to eat all the time. So I knew that didn't work. So I said, sort of, that, you know, I'll have to go to Grey Sheets and really give it a try. Well, I thought it'd be easy giving up carbohydrates and sugars and start grains, sort of with the help of the meetings, sort of. I thought, it's going to be easy. Well, it's not been easy, and it isn't easy, sort of. And what I've learned is you've got to have the whole of the program. You've got to work the whole of the program. It's not little sections here and there. It's the whole of the program, and you've got to be organised. Sort of. You've got to. What I've found is for myself, I've got to go shopping when I say I'm going to go shopping. I've got to write the list when I say I'm going to write the list. I've got to prepare the food when I say I'm going to prepare the food. It's not. It's not about I'll go shopping tomorrow or I'll write the list or I don't need to write a list. I have to do them things. I have to make the phone calls. I have to go on meetings. I was talking to someone yesterday. I had a long conversation with someone who's got a lot of years, and they go on meetings every day. And I thought, she said, it's brainwashing. You need your brain washed, you know? And I thought, yeah, I'm prepared to go on meetings every day now, you know, sort of. And that was a person who, just three at most, if that, I'm prepared to go on meetings every day, to get myself really rooted in grey sheets. Um, you got to make the calls. You've got to have a sponsor. Sort of. You got to ask the sponsor questions. Anything you need to know, you can ask the sponsor. Sort of. That's what they're there for. Sort of. And you got to weigh and measure your meals. And I don't find any problem with weighing and measuring my meals. I keep my meals basically simple. I don't do acrobatics with food. Sort of. And it works for me. It works for me. I've been in grey sheets coming up to 3 years, and I've only got, I don't know, 108 days of abstinence, continual abstinence. Um, I've made every mistake possible. I've learned from them mistakes, and I was reading the doctor's opinion day before yesterday in the evening. I was reading and I thoroughly agreed and understood, comprehended. I comprehended what the doctor opinion was about. I experienced it. I knew what it was about, and I had total belief and total trust in that, um, as I have trust in the people in grey sheets. My problem was, a lot of my problem was I wouldn't ask for help. I find it very difficult to ask for help. I'm in AA a while, but I still find it very difficult to ask for help. And people are just very happy to help. They're very happy to tell you what they do. Sort of. They have no problem with it, sort of, and I'm grateful, sort of. I don't mind making the phone calls now. In the early days, I stuck to certain people, and I got a list, and that was it. Now I'm expanding on that list, and I'm not nervous about making phone calls. It's not the 10-10 phone, sort of. I can make those calls, um, and the literature, sort of. Yeah, but I'm gonna finish now. But I'm grateful to Grey Sheets. Sort of. Um, I'm working the steps, beginning to work the steps. Um, I understand it's a spiritual program, emotional program. I've begun to realize that I'm emotionally sick. Um, and sort of is a program of change. Sort of. I don't think anyone comes in here very well. Sort of. you know, um, it's a program of change. I leave it there. Thank you.